The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Let's listen as Lorraine Lapointe, coach, therapist, educator, speaker, and founder of Head Heart Synergy, brings together another enlightened guest to inspire and motivate us to move forward, achieve our dreams and desires, so that we experience midlife awakening.
And I'm your host, Lorraine Lapointe. Today we'll enjoy another candid conversation that reveals how to bring back a sense of balance and how to find forward focus. Today, take just a few moments to join us as we explore the possibilities and the perspectives that provide us with greater inner peace, power, passion, and purpose. Because that's what I call living at the edge of fulfillment in a midlife awakening.
Well, hello and welcome to our audience that is around the world. It's so good to have you here. Have you noticed that right now we're living in a world that seems to be turning, I don't know how to describe it, kind of inside out? You know, are you wanting to leave, or perhaps you're being pushed out of a job so that you can now pursue something that really lights you up? Or do you have a message to share with the world? Saying yes to any of that means that we have a fantastic guest for you today. He's a specialist in teaching what you love and increasing your income. And, some may say it's an era of the Great Resignation, where millions of people are leaving jobs by force or by choice, so they can search for the opportunity to do something that they want, something that they love, something that they're called to do. And in today's show, we'll discover why content licensing is a great way to leverage your experience and your expertise and to create financial stability for your new path in life. And by the way, for those I haven't met before, I'm Lorraine Lapointe, and I broadcast live here each week on Edge of Fulfillment, as we explore and expand our thinking about how we best show up in the world. And I work with women who are ready to release stress and overwhelm, and who want to strengthen their inner self-trust. Because when we expose the toxic internal influences, we gain better perspective and focus, and we can put our attention on helping things to go right in our world. What I found is that self-trust is the root of harmony and balance. As we recover from the pain of feeling anxious or lost, or if we feel alone or lonely, and we connect with that inner core, then we can reestablish peace of mind. We can feel stronger, more confident, and more in control of our life. And today, there are many who are experiencing changes. Like I said, whether that's through choice or force, and they say it feels like standing on an edge. What they really want, what they really feel they need, is a little courage to live without the toxic self-judgment, and to feel a little in control of those inner voices, those toxic inner voices that fill us with guilt, shame, or blame, and have the tools to move those toxic voices aside, because they stop us moving forward towards our dreams and desires, because they fill us with dread and worry. But in today's show, my guest is going to encourage you to think about how you can teach what you love and increase your income, and what to do when you get the opportunity to work at something else, something that you love, instead of just trading time for money, or money for a job. But before we introduce him, you need to know that at any time today, if you have questions or comments, or you want to like the show, you're encouraged to share your thoughts and questions, because here on Edge of Fulfillment, you also create an opportunity to make life better for someone else in the world. Because for every comment or like or share, you help my company, Head Heart Synergy, to provide access to a day's clean water wherever it's needed most through B1G1. And I'm so pleased to say that we have already provided so many hundreds of days of clean, fresh water where it's needed in the world. And this means that when you comment or you ask a question, or you listen in the replay onto our podcast, you're helping someone in the world to live better too. And I want to thank you for helping me to help others. And now let's take a short break and go ahead and send an invitation to friends and family to join us here on Edge of Fulfillment on the Head Heart Synergy Facebook fan page. Or if you're here on W4WM, that's the Women for Women Network Radio. Or good morning, Sherry. So good to see you. Or we're also broadcasting on Talk for TV. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Mental fitness, the missing X factor for enhancing performance, achievement, and success. Mental fitness empowers you with the magic of 3: stabilized mood, peace of mind, deeper relationships. Time to make it happen? Grow the self-command muscle. Intercept your self-defenses. Build your inner wisdom. In less than 15 minutes a day, gain the missing X factor. Let me show you how.
There comes a time we wonder, what's next? For women like us, as we stand at the edge of fulfillment, are you feeling unsettled, restless, not quite right? That's midlife awakening. Are you looking for fulfillment? Or to squeeze more juice out of life? Midlife awakening at the edge of fulfillment, don't miss it. We understand. By phone or laptop, wherever you are, come join us. Friday 10 a.m. Eastern Time, on Head Heart Synergy Facebook business page, or here, on the Women for Women Network Radio and Talk 4 TV.
Well, welcome back. Quick recap. Our guest today is known for many roles and supports for new business. So I'm going to tell you a little about Shadid. He's a U.S. Navy veteran and Baltimore's leading small business advisor. He believes that entrepreneurship is the remedy that will empower us, and his mission is to help us package our knowledge, our skills, our abilities, so we can be available for others in moments that matter. Shadid helps us convert our online programs and our experiences and our expertise into best-selling books or courses that are license ready and sold to corporations, universities, government agencies. And this is called content licensing, and it increases your income and solves the problem of trading time for money. So welcome to the show today, Shadid.
It is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to share the time and space with you and your audience today. Thank you.
And so many of our audience today, those who comment and those who are listening in the background, are experiencing changes. And I know that you've been supporting entrepreneurs and women in business and just regular folk with licensing their content for a long time. And I must confess, Shadid, I'm not completely sure what that means. So I'm looking forward to learning more. And I'm curious to find out what first put you on this path. Where would you like to start your story?
Well, let's start with the idea that traditionally women have been excluded from the business conversation for many decades. And in today's time, at the time of this recording, women are the fastest growing sector of small business. And so many innovation numbers go to show those studies. So this conversation for the ladies in the audience is targeted for that innovation, for that growth. So in terms of my story, where I start, it content licensing for me started by accident. Accidental licensing is what I like to call it. So let me paint the picture here. When we talk about the attacks on the Twin Towers in New York City, 9/11, I was part of a first responder group within the military that would go over to address the situation. Now, in a Navy context, we have what's called operational readiness. So if you just picture your desk where you're listening to this, or your counter where you may be tuning into this broadcast, and just look at the items on your desk or the location where you're in. So if you have a printer, if you have a stapler, if you have a desktop or laptop computer, in a military context, you must be certified in order to use that equipment. And so when you're going into a heightened, let's say, combat scenario, that must be 100%. So in our work center, our system for tracking was literally a sheet of paper that had a 2-hole punch that was hanging on the wall. It was not a robust system. It didn't have any redundancy. This was a different time. It was years ago. And so we needed to get up to speed with our overall readiness. So we received funding from the government in order to have this software package. And so with the software package, I took the initiative because no one knew how to use it. So I took the initiative after my 15-hour shifts. We all worked 15 hours out to sea, and began to learn it on my own time. So I knew it well enough to be proficient. Now, where licensing comes into this is I created a training package that helped our sailors to get through the certification exams for each piece of combat equipment within our work center. Oh. I was part of one combat systems center, but there were a total of 10. So when our numbers went up, the other 9 divisions wondered, how'd he do it? And so I got permission from my higher ups, the chain of command, to go to the other departments and train the trainer. So packaging the training along with the knowledge of the system and giving permission to each department was my first example of licensing. The Navy, or my command, elevated me to a position to manage the operational readiness of all 10, which was a total of over 2,000 people. I earned a Navy Achievement Medal during a time of war for helping our command get up to speed with readiness. So when you talk about an idea based with the need or combined with the need and giving permission to a target audience, what we're discussing is the world of content licensing.
That's fascinating. Tell us more.
Well, when we talk about content licensing, what many people do not understand is that it exists all around us. And so when we think about scholastic, our schooling life, we've all been to some form of school in our lifetime. So think about your high school textbooks. Your teacher, your freshman science teacher did not write the textbooks that you use for science class. Neither did your English teacher, neither did your math teacher. So the question is, where did the textbooks come from? And so in the world of education, licensing is so lucrative that there are companies that are stood up, created just for the purpose of providing educational material to high schools. And so it's a multi-million-dollar business. When we think about college, your professor did not write the textbooks. Again, licensing is in use, and many of us have worked in, let's say, the corporate world, and your CEO, CIO, CTO HR representative did not write the onboarding manuals that the company uses or any of the training. They outsourced to Small Business America, Small Business North America, or the country in which you live. And so the dots that need to be connected in this conversation is that if you have knowledge or you have a track record within your career, you can potentially plug into a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and that is known as content licensing.
That is fascinating. So do you believe we overlook the value of our content? Like, and maybe we need to define for listeners and viewers exactly what we're talking about in terms of content. For example, I have a few online courses that I've created, and being a former teacher, that's that's what I love to do. But tell us more. Is that what we mean by content, and do we overlook the value of it?
Well, let's change the word from content to knowledge and solutions, because everyone listening to this broadcast knows something based on an experience or a unique perspective to solving a problem. And when you solve enough problems, that becomes a solution, a go-to solution that you can utilize when you're in that scenario. So everyone listening, everyone who can hear my voice has that at their disposal as an asset. Courses in themselves, that's for, let's say, a more advanced portion of the audience. So let's start with knowledge and solutions. So what people undervalue the fact that their solution is valuable to a large mass of people or a targeted audience. So if you've solved a problem, you may think, well, since I'm able to solve it easily, it only takes me 5 minutes, 30 minutes to solve a complex problem. I've done this a million times. That since you've only taken 30 minutes to do it, it's not valuable to someone else. But you have to realize that there's someone who's starting for the first time every single day. And through the magic of search engines, they're online and they're searching for that solution every single day. If you were to package your solution and host it online, then you give it the probability that someone who's searching for it will find it. It's your content, your knowledge, your solution is like a magnet. And so the first thing you have to keep in mind is that there isn't millions of people in the world who are searching for the solution that you have every day. And when we talk about, let's say, the value of that, if you think about the results of what your solution can deliver in the lives of the people who need it most, that's where the value comes from versus, well, I've done this many times. It only took me 5-10 minutes to do it. And when you look at it from your perspective, it diminishes the value. So one exercise that you can take from our conversation is to think about if you were able to give a tip to save someone's marriage or help them to lose 20 pounds and bring down a lot of, let's say, health symptoms that they may be facing, or to have more confidence to face the day, or a set of affirmations that gives them renewed hope. Think about the value that delivers to a person who needs it the most and start to work from that standpoint. And then you'll find that what you have is ordained to be delivered in the world to make a difference.
This reminds me of a story that I heard where somebody was saying about dentists and how much, oh my goodness, I can't believe that the dentist, charged me $500 for that 5-minute appointment. And I remember the story goes, so if you're going to have a tooth pulled to relieve the pain, would you rather the dentist takes 2 hours to do it or 20 seconds? And I know which one I would choose and which one I will pay more for. So I think that relates to what you're saying. If you can easily solve a problem for someone, even if it takes just a short amount of time, that if you're solving the problem that they have, that's of value.
Absolutely. So when we think about the world of stability and where the world is today, especially with the Great Resignation, which is the world we're living to in that you mentioned at the top of the broadcast, think about how your knowledge, when it's hosted online, can begin to solve financial challenges, start to create, let's say, additional income so that you can have a bit more comfort in your monthly budget. And if you continue in this process, then you can move forward to creating a more stable income that starts to start with supplementing and then begin to become a larger part of the financial pie for yourself.
So I'm going to ask a quick question. So let's say you have a knowledge of a business that is not an online business. I'm thinking of someone recently I spoke to who is an equine therapist. So they work with horses, and horses are very hard things to put online because they're 1,200 pounds and you need to be with them. However, what I'm hearing you say is if you can take the knowledge that you have about how that therapy works, and perhaps even how to train that therapy for someone else to learn, that is that the value that you're talking about? Is that the ability to be out there so that the time that you're spending training or writing up that material is valuable?
Yes. So let's go in the direction of businesses or ideas that are traditionally considered, let's say, brick and mortar or traditional. So let's
Yeah,
take,
like you need to be there personally in those
yes,
circumstances. Yeah.
pizzerias, bakeries, um, dental, doctor offices, the medical field, so real estate, and so and equine therapy. And so, using these examples, let's say with someone who is a horse trainer, for layman's terms for the audience, if we think about the journey of the person who is aspiring to be a horse trainer, there's a certain set of steps that if they go wrong, it can take them years to get on the right path. So there's definitely a series of best practices. And what I want each person who's running a traditional brick and mortar enterprise is to just consider the value of installing an educational branch into your existing business. So what this means is if you're able to educate your prospects who have raised their hand, maybe they're searching online or they're interested in what you have to offer, what steps can you provide in order to educate them more on your service? So if I'm a barber, for example, which is 100% an in-person business,
Yeah.
if I'm able to provide education to someone who comes to my website, who comes to my social media platforms, who walks into my shop, if I'm able to say, well, before you book your appointment, download my 10 steps to a healthier hair guide. And I provide that for my prospect. They're now more educated before they come in for their first appointment. Now let's take it on the other side, where if someone is now a paying customer, they have a journey as well. How can they become smarter through the use of my product? So that may be here's the how to wash your hair a certain way, how to cut your own hair. If let's say you're traveling, or let's say you have a short-term need and my schedule is booked, so you're educating and helping your clients, your prospects become smarter as a result of interacting with you before the sale and after the sale. And one of the most important metrics in business is customer lifetime value. And the companies that maintain the highest level of customer lifetime value continuously educate and enroll their customers into new programs and new experiences. And for the equine trainer, ranging to the bakery, to the barber educational material, and building an educational center around your products and services will keep your clients, raise your testimonials, overall customer service value, and ultimately raise the value of your services because they're learning while they're doing and or consuming.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I mean, I do, John mentioned, I do have a niece who has a horse farm. So I wonder if she's ever thought of adding an educational arm or branch to her horse academy, her horse training
Well,
facility. That's a brilliant way of considering what people are doing, especially in these days. Let's talk about the time for money trap. Perhaps that's not clear. So how does that hurt people, this time for money trap?
well, the great Warren Buffett is quoted as saying, if you don't find a way to earn money while you sleep, you will work until you die. And so
Mm.
now death is a certainty for us all, but uh, a reality we don't often think about is working until we're much older and our quality of life diminishes and we still have to pay bills. And so that's the life that we are all on, the trajectory we are all on. And if you're a business owner, it's even worse because retirement simply does not exist for many business owners, especially if you don't do the proper estate planning. So when we look into the time for money trap, there is a formula that we all must solve, which is how do we earn a living away from our actual direct time and labor? And so if we are working for a client or we're going to a company and doing our best work, what happens when we get sick? What happens when we have to take time away, whether it's mental health, illness, otherwise? What happens if we simply want to go on vacation? What happens during the birth of a child or an important moment or an emergency? If your direct income is tied into the money you earn, it's you're going to have periods where there's going to be ebbs and flows. So the question is, how do we stabilize that? And so the time for money trap exists where, especially in let's say a consulting context, let's say you land a 1-year contract. Hallelujah. 1-year contract. We have stable income. Now, within that 1-year contract, what you start to do when you're in this position, you start to plan ahead and think about the vacation you're going to take and the upgrades you can make. You can finally pay taxes. It's a wonderful life. And so what happens is, especially during these times, funding can lead to diminishing the contract, where instead of it being 1 year, it may end up being 6 months. So, or it can be a situation where you work the 1 year, 365 days honorably, and then there's a gap where you go from being on the contract to now you must prospect and find the next project. And so when you're on a contract, for example, when you're delivering 100% of effort, what most people don't tell you in business and career school is that prospecting is a part-time job in itself. So finding clients,
Finding a job is a job on its own.
Exactly. So when you're on a job, you don't have the time and energy or the demand to actually look for a job. Urgency is what leads to people finding jobs. And so that's the challenge that we face, is when the time period is up, no matter how much we save, money out versus less money in is going to lead to a deficit over a matter or period of time. So the solution to the time for money trap is to create those digital assets. So packaging your knowledge and skills and abilities for a targeted group of people and begin to host it online. And what begins to happen is it starts off as pennies. It starts off as small sales. And as it begins to grow in momentum, you begin to create, let's say, a cushion each month where you're starting off with sales versus having to chase clients. So once you have that stability, that nest egg from student income, then it allows you the ability to pick and choose which clients you work with to deliver excellence for, or maybe a project that you support, versus I have to take this job, I have to take this contract because I simply need to make ends meet. I believe that we should stop chasing clients and start enrolling students through the power of digital assets in order to solve that time for money formula and escape the trap.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that search engines are used to bring students to you who are looking for the solution you provide. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that happens? Because I know that the question will probably be, yes, I have this asset, even if I write a course, how do I know that people are going to want it? How am I going to know people are going to pay money for it and buy it, and that the wealth will flow?
Well, to answer that question, we have to look at how society is set up nowadays. You know, when you miss an event that you absolutely wanted to watch, what's the first thing you do? You go to YouTube, or you go to Hulu, or some form of on-demand entertainment and or library of content. So that is how society is set up today. In a career context, before you come in for an interview, HR or the hiring manager or decision maker is going to your LinkedIn profile. They're looking online to gain an idea of your reputational currency before they bring you in for that interview. And
Can we stop and say that again? Because this is a really important point, I feel. That what I just heard you say is, yes, before anyone hires you, whether it's for a job through HR or whether it's a person looking to solve a problem, they first go and check you out online. They first go to see who you are and who you are being online. Did I get that right?
That is correct. And what I call that, the phrase I have coined, is reputational currency. So the, let's say, knowledge that this scenario exists and publishing content to help boost your reputation, or leveraging your reputation in order to influence a positive result for a decision that's being made for your career, for your business or opportunity, is reputational currency. So when we look at how society is set up, whether it's a job, whether it's entertainment you want to see, if you missed the Super Bowl, you're going to look for the highlights online on demand. I signed up for an entire streaming service because I love the Olympics, and the events that I missed, I was able to watch on demand. That is how we consume information today. And so when we talk about search engines, you have to think or consider or reframe what you see social media to be. YouTube may be just a video sharing site to you, but it is the world's #2 search engine. Twitter may be just a place where you say, well, I don't want to share what I have for lunch today, but it is the world's #1 real-time search engine for information. So these are places where information is stored, data is kept, and people are searching by the millions each and every day. And so when we talk about the power of search engines, we also have to think about what people are searching for. So you can go to Google Trends and understand what people are searching for at any given time, any moment of the day. And when you talk about your digital assets and the problems you solve, you have to match what people are searching for with the problem that you have or that solution that you deliver. And if you're able to do that, some people call it SEO. And if you're able to increase, let's say, the amount of attention on your asset or your solution, then you're using the power of search engines in order to increase your overall sales and or attention on that product. Next, you also want to consider that certain platforms such as LinkedIn have a higher search engine value. If you're active in your career and or business, you can do a search for your first name and last name, and typically LinkedIn will be either above your website or right below it, because that is a top reputation based network that you should have a presence on. So if you have your, let's say, information related to the problem that your digital asset solves, then the likelihood that you generate sales, attention, leads from that will grow exponentially.
That's awesome. Yeah, there are so many platforms out there. Sometimes people get a little confused as to which one to be on. And I've heard it said that pick your platform where you believe that your people are, and concentrate on that. And Rachel just had an interesting question about hashtags to optimize your business. How do you feel about that?
Well, how I feel is secondary to the reality that exists. So if you're on a search engine driven platform, Rachel, Instagram, for example, is the worldwide leader in hashtag strategy use. If you're going to increase your visibility on a search engine, so just to take a step back, if you're a business owner and you are on the 7th page of Google for your primary specialty, your business is in a graveyard from a digital standpoint. You want to be on the first page, at worst the second page, for the keywords related to the problems that you solve. So with social media, especially with platforms such as Instagram, hashtags are a powerful way to ensure that your message is elevated with the people who are searching for that information. So hashtags are an essential strategy, and we'll take it a step further with a platform such as Instagram. Not only are hashtags important, but if you don't have a minimum of 10 hashtags using the post that you're uploading, then it won't have the visibility that you seek. Very important strategy, Rachel. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, and Rachel actually mentioned earlier, she is one of the businesses that is bricks and mortar type, because she, well, there it is, in my reptile business. Thanks, Rachel, for popping that in again, or Roxy for popping that in again. I need to educate with animal care and create greater rapport with customers. Yeah, because a lot of people are fascinated about reptiles but don't know much about them. So would that be an example, Shadid, of a need that might show up when you do a search in terms of trends, that there might be people looking for reptiles as pets these days because there's a real upsurge in pets?
Well, when we look at not only digital marketing trends, but trends as far as human nature, during this time, more people are inside their homes in greater numbers over the past year and a half, almost 2 years. And so many people have, let's say, comforted themselves through getting a pet. And many reptiles, especially, are considered a novelty pet. It will be cool to have a pet snake. The risk that they run into is once they get the pet snake, they harm the snake or they harm the lizard because they don't know the proper care, whether it's temperature, whether it's lighting, whether it's, I tried to give my snake a piece of steak and just didn't like it. And so education in this case is a great opportunity to take up market share within your overall region, within your overall niche through education. So if you have a training series, and to tie it into the hashtag theme, if you have, let's say, Snake Care 101 or Snake 101 or Lizard 101 as hashtags, these are ways that you can leverage that form of marketing to make it more memorable and exciting, and stick in the mind of your prospects and consumers through an ongoing educational series that can be delivered as a course. It would be great as a YouTube series. And so there's a huge opportunity at your doorstep, Rachel.
And my understanding is that no one owns hashtags. Is that right?
Hashtags are a tool to be used, but there's no owner of hashtags. You can, from a popularity standpoint and a branding standpoint, you can create unique hashtags that tie into your overall brand, your mission, or your message.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. Thank you. And so tell us again about the licensing piece, because I'm not completely clear how one goes about licensing content.
When we talk about licensing in itself is giving permission to an entity that has a targeted audience for a defined period of time. And so there's many ways to put together licensing deals. I'll give a few examples. So if you and I, Lorraine, let's say I am a radio or podcast network, and I see Edge of Fulfillment is doing great. It's a very professional setup. And I say, well, my audience we need a program that speaks to women who are looking to find fulfillment in their life and in their journey. And someone says, Lorraine is the perfect person to talk to. Say, okay, let's have a meeting. And so the acquisition, or let's say sharing episodes of the radio program on my podcast network that I'm distributing to my audience, is an example of licensing. When we talk about, which episodes will there be? Well, we want an ongoing series. How long will this deal take place? We're going to structure the deal for 1 year. Will it be audio, or will it be audio and video? Well, we want both. And so these are how, let's say, content that solves a problem for a targeted group of people begins to work with entities. And so when we think about content licensing as a whole, if you have a program, and let's say your program is helping women who were, let's say, in abusive relationships to find peace, serenity, and self-confidence once again. And there's a nonprofit organization that deals with, let's say, women's shelters and self-confidence issues and job placement. They may have a gap in their educational program that your program or course solves. And so putting those pieces together to say, well, we want to license your program to help our women to who are in the shelters to start to go back to work and reintegrate back into society as fully functional women. That is the handshake or the partnership that can take place. So the options within that would be your organization has access to our content management system where the course is delivered. I will also step in and deliver a workshop once every month in order to help women with a live training component. And at the end of the year, we'll do a graduation. And so these are areas that can be monetized, but the terms and conditions are fully negotiable. But the key point is that instead of selling your book, your course, your solution in a one-on-one fashion, licensing is the ultimate leverage where, number one, you can sell to a larger body of your target audience. So this organization exists to serve your target audience. So that's a great partnership in itself. But from a financial standpoint, it's incredibly lucrative because with licensing, one of the key differences is that I can say I need to have a minimum of 25 books to be sold. in order for this deal to take place, I need for a minimum of 50 women to be enrolled into my program so that we can facilitate this at the corporate level. So you can have a one-on-one program, you can have a group program, and then you can have a corporate program where those minimums are set. And the key here is that if you're going to sell anything in life, one of the key prerequisites is make sure that the entity you're selling to has the money to pay you. And guess what?
Good advice.
Universities, corporations, and agencies have budgets set aside each and every year for education and training. So they're looking for someone or some business to acquire, because in certain cases, such as nonprofits, there's a use or lose component where if they don't use the funds from that grant, then they don't get it back next year. And so if you position yourself to have those conversations, then only good things will happen for you.
And I'm assuming that if somebody is interested in stepping into this, that you can help guide and direct them and help them to frame whatever it is that they can offer as a solution so that it is appealing to these organizations. Is that correct?
Yes. And working with my clients, we take our clients through a content licensing fundamentals training when we start off. So we assess the business plan of our clients and walk them through all the details of their existing idea. We assess what digital assets or intellectual property they have at their disposal that we consider a candidate for licensing. And then we take them down the path step by step in a project management plan that is hosted online that both parties can see, where we guide them through the entire process of making their idea license ready and provide proposal support for any deals, conversations, meetings that are necessary in order to license with the agency, university, or corporation.
That's awesome. So we've got about 30 seconds or so left of the show. Is there a way that you'd like to summarize and let our viewers and listeners know to contact you? Because I think that you might have piqued some curiosity out there.
Well, the first step I want you to take is to download the Digital Assets Execution Plan. This will allow you to escape the time for money trap that we covered in this conversation via our step-by-step process, and you gain access to full support. So there's a link in there where if you click the link, it brings up a messenger window, and I'm on the other end to help you answer your questions through our Digital Assets Execution Plan. We also have various, let's say, study hall sessions where you can ask any questions related to packaging your ideas and or moving into the world of licensing.
Yeah, and for our radio listeners, that's the link is Mr. Shadid, that's SHADED.com/assets. And you can also reach Shadid at hello@mrshadid.com. So that I'd love to have people understand how to reach out to you and to connect with you, because I think as the world continues to turn into this little bit of chaos and turmoil and the Great Resignation, as we mentioned a couple of times in the show, now is a perfect time to connect with you and to determine what it is that they have expertise and experience in that could potentially be licensed to help others. So I want to thank you so much, Shadid, for coming on and for giving us such a wonderful education and making your services available to the many out there who need it.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to have this discussion, and hopefully the impact from this is that people realize the value of their ideas and their gifts and start to package them and change their lives and scenarios.
Wonderful. And I am your host, Lorraine Lapointe, and we've been talking to Shadid Eleazer, and my company is Head Heart Synergy, reminding you that we are here on Midlife Awakening at the Edge of Fulfillment. And at the edge of fulfillment, there's always a choice. You can stay on the edge getting what you've always got, or you can become just a little bit courageous and move beyond the edge to get what you really want. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.